we need to talk about the most recent discoveries that were found by ASI. Why? Because the two of these are discoveries that will change how you look at Indian history forever. So get on board and get ready to learn something incredible about our history with some of the oldest Hindu scriptures mention the existence of another river in between the Indus and the Ganga, called the Saraswati. It was largely believed to be a myth for most of our history, but as we started discovering more Indus Valley sites on the Indian side of the border, we started discovering them at odd places. Places that were too far away from any known tributary of Indus. Rakhigari is the primary example of this. At first, people thought that these were not by a riverside, or maybe Sutlej flowed differently 4,000 years ago. But then more sites in Haryana and eastern Rajasthan were found, roughly nearby each other in a line, as if they were by a river. Strange. Then came the satellite discovery of the paleo channels of a defunct river. This showed that there might have been a seventh river adding to the Indus River basin, a river that flowed roughly in between Ganga and the Indus. But outside of Rakhigadi and many small village sites, we did not find any other cities on this river until now. That is in the Deeg district of Rajasthan, which is in the Bhaj area, we found another Bronze Age city with artifacts dating back to 4,500 years ago. It's the deepest and hence the oldest dig we have done in the Rajasthan history, and the sheer amount of artifacts found here suggests that it was a city. We might have found another Indus Saraswati city, another Bronze Age city, and not only that, it also helps us understand the possible path that the Saraswati River could have taken back in the day. And somehow this isn't even the most significant part of the whole discovery. It's that even as the Saraswati River got dried up or got diverted, this settlement stayed. The event that probably caused most of the other Indus Valley sites to be abandoned didn't destroy this city. And then they stuck around all the way through the second urbanization or the Vedic age, when a new batch of villages and cities started popping up. ASI is calling this the Mahabharata age for some reason, but okay. And then, even after that, they stuck around through the Mahajanpad and through the Mauryan Empire conquest and the Shungas and the classical age with the Indo-Scythians coming in and the Kushans conquering it all. And they even stuck all the way through to the end of the Gupta Empire. It finally got abandoned because of the attack of the Huns. We have found an Indus Valley site that stuck around until the attack of the Huns. At each layer of the soil there, we're finding different artifacts signifying different time periods that it had stuck through. Some examples of this is that with the lowest layers, we see that the locals used to bury their dead, and with time, they started burning their dead and leaving the ashes in their urns. And we even see a transition period in between these two. Another one is the iconography or the idols. In the Bronze Age layer, there are some statuettes found, and then in time, they disappeared. There are no more statuettes to be found until they reappear again during the Shunga age, either signifying the loss of significance in the intermediary period of the settlement or the loss of significance of idols during this time period. The skulls that we have found from the lowest levels have been sent to be genetically tested, and we haven't received much results yet, but when it does, it would be an interesting find. More things need to be found out of this dig. This dig was only started around last year during January, and there will be multiple iterations of it going forward. So we will find out more about this settlement over time. when we think about settlements in India, we think back to the earliest Indus Valley settlements, 5,500 years ago, at the earliest. But with this discovery, we learned that could be further from the truth. You see, we might have found a settlement in Kutch that predated Indus Valley civilization by 5,000 years. Now, the majority of the artifacts found in this site come from the early Harappan period, from around 5,300 to 3,300 years ago. It's a site near Dholavira in Kutch, and it is believed to be a village from the Indus Valley times. In this site, researchers had found unusual concentration of seashells, despite it being so far away from the sea. It was even noted by the British archaeologists that were digging at this site, but they didn't pursue it further. They didn't even consider it to be brought there by humans. Indian archaeologists, on the other hand, believed that this was the remains of the oysters eaten by the Indus Valley people in Kutch. To test this hypothesis, the shells were carbon dated to the time of their death, and what was found turned everything on its head. These shells were not from the time of the Indus Valley. They were from 5,000 years before the earliest settlement of Indus Valley. See, it is normally believed that before farming, humans were migratory. They hunted, they gathered, and then they moved from one place, and then they did the same thing in a different place. That they didn't settle down and didn't create settlements. We even called pre-farming humans cavemen, except that is turning out to be wrong. We have been finding many settlements that predates the arrival of farming to that region. Places where people return to regularly, like Gobekli Tepe, or settled down in like this place. The farming revolution arrived in the Indian subcontinent around 7,000 years ago with the arrival of the Elamite tribes from Iran, which was a good 3,000 years after the earliest shell found in this site. More than likely, people settled down here and farmed oysters and probably fished from the mangroves that used to be there for thousands of years. They probably built a settlement of materials that didn't last, like wood, and lived in those settlements in societies. What's even more interesting is the fact that the signs of inhabitation of these people, from the shells to the stone tools, continue from that time period all the way until the building of the Indus Valley site. Meaning that the people of Indus Valley, or the Elamites, arrived at some point there, and then they mixed with the locals, and that's what created the Indus Valley civilization. Meaning that the Indus Valley civilization could be a mixture of the two, people who had already been here and the people who came in later. And it is not a case of a sudden foreign influx or the case of a foreigner civilizing the locals, but instead a gradual growth of culture and knowledge from two cultures coming together and becoming greater parts of the two sums. Maybe this is exactly what happened later with the Aryans, Central Asians for the PC crowd. It seems that the Indian archaeologists are discovering something new almost every other month these days. And the reason for that is because the budget for ASI and other state archaeological groups has been increased 7-folds in the last few years. That means that we'll find even more about our history pretty soon and pretty often. One of the most exciting projects that ASI is taking over is underwater archaeology. It was done primarily to look into the sunk city of Dwarka, but it would give an overall boost to the archaeological wing of India, since there are a lot of structures that have been submerged underwater over time because of the change of the flow of rivers or the sea taking over the land. There are shipwrecks that could give insights into the trade routes and how people traded at different time periods. It would give a look into the coinage and the culture of the people who traded from different times. I mean, finding a shipwreck from Indus Valley times of ships that went from Indus Valley to the Middle East in the Bronze Age would be an incredible find that would blow my mind personally. It's all incredible. I don't know what civilization we might find next, and that's exciting. See you next time.